What's going on, everybody? This is Lady Luck here again. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. All right. So, P. Diddy, aka Sean Combs, and everything else in between, has been sentenced to 4 years and 2 months in prison. So, I want to go over the news video, a very short one, because this is being covered to death, and then go over a summary of the government's sentencing memorandum, the defense's sentencing memorandum, and the indictment. Just a summary of it. I do have the court documents. It's 164 pages long. And I think his indictment was like 20. I do have his indictment was, good grief, it's like 14 pages long. It's not that long. But the sentencing memorandum presented by the government is 164 pages long. And then the sentencing memorandum presented by his defense is 181 pages long. So there's no way I'm going over all those documents. But I did get a summary done on them in ChatGPT. Yay! So we're going to go over that. But first and foremost, make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe to the Lady Luck Club, because I roll out the facts and documentation here. All right. I'm sorry I can't take it to a sensational level. He's going to prison for 4 years. He did what he did. They found him guilty. He's being sentenced. He's going to prison. So it's time out that we stop letting people, simply because they have a lot of money that does not go towards our households, get away with everything. He doesn't pay anybody else's mortgages or bills except the people that he pays. And it's certainly not millions of people that are sitting here wanting him to just walk away free. It's not how that works. Regardless of your race or skin color, you do something to break the law, there's a penalty for that. Stop for the consequences. It is what it is. Unless Sean Combs is paying your mortgage, you shouldn't feel anything about it. It is what it is. All right? So hit the like button and subscribe to the Lady Luck Club, because I'm only going to tell the truth about it, and the truth shall set you free. Yes, it will. Let's get to the video here. This handsome man, he is gorgeous. I don't know who this is, but shout out to the news reporter. Yum yum. ABC News. We're just going to check out this video. Then we're going to get to the summaries, and then I'll show you guys the documents, but I'm not going to read over them because of the length of pages that they are. They're extraordinarily lengthy, but I mean, it's a federal case. I expect it to be. I'm just not going to read them all. All right. So shout out to this handsome reporter. Let's get to it.
I'm with Johnson in New York. We're coming back on the air because a judge has just sentenced Sean Diddy Combs to 4 years in prison. He was found guilty over the summer on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution in connection with his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and another woman, but was acquitted on more serious charges that could have sent him to prison for life. Let's get right to our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Tursky, who's been following this file from the beginning. He joins us from outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. So, Aaron, we just got the verdict right there. We know that Combs himself spoke to the judge. The judge responded. Lay out the sentencing here and what went down in the courtroom today.
This was a very long sentencing hearing, which Sean Combs himself, once larger than life, was left begging for mercy, standing at the defense table, telling the judge that he's a changed man, apologizing for his behavior. But that request for a lenient sentence of time served was rejected by the judge, Arun Subramanian, who said it was insufficient to send the kind of message that he wanted to send, that violence against women must be met with real accountability. And so he sentenced Sean Combs to 4 years in prison. That's not as much as federal prosecutors here wanted. They wanted 11 years in prison, reminding the judge that Sean Combs has a penchant for violence and abuse, pointing to 2016 hotel security video showing Combs attacking Cassie Ventura. Combs says he knows that video intimately. He apologized to Cassie Ventura. The judge said 11 years was unreasonable, but 4 years is just the right amount, the judge said, to send a message to Sean Combs, to victims of domestic violence. That
you have people walking around that claim to be human beings with a soul and a conscience thinking this is okay. Now, let me just ask you all, what would Jesus do? He certainly wouldn't let Sean Combs just walk away. For those that God loves, he chastises. Chastisement may mean you have to go to prison. Thou art to obey the laws of the land. We want to sit and be hypocritical towards certain things when it comes to certain people. And that's not how the law works. And you don't want it to work that way. You don't want someone to walk away simply because they made songs and they made millions of dollars. They made songs. He made millions of dollars. How many of your households does his money affect again? You got all these supporters out here that have literally put money in his pocket, and Sean Combs has never done the reverse to anyone else. Half of the supporters, he could care less that you all exist. But when he is breaking the law, he thought this was okay to do. He gave some haphazard apology. He tried to pay off the hotel to keep the video from being released. That's not someone who feels sorrow or apologetic. That is someone realizing they got caught. And people are out here grieving and mourning over this. He's a grown man that decided to do this nonsense, and he's going to prison for it. The end. You would not want some dude off the street that doesn't have millions of dollars to walk away from this. And if it were your mother, your daughter, your sisters, ask yourselves, would you want Sean Combs to walk away if this was your mother, your sister, or your daughter? Yeah, to the dumbasses that's sitting here talking about, oh no, I can't believe they're putting their foot on the neck of a black man. We don't care what color he is. The law is not supposed to.
Their accounts will be taken seriously.
But Aaron, thanks. Let's go ahead and bring in a trial attorney and ABC News legal
Good for the
contributor,
judge.
Brian Buckmeyer.
Good on the judge.
Brian, we just heard Aaron lay out right there that the defense was hoping for 14 months and credit for time served. The prosecution wanted 11 years. So this is somewhere in the middle. Is this verdict what you expected?
He's not talented.
It actually was not
anyway.
what I expected, and this is why I say that. The probation report said anywhere from 70 to 87 months, much higher than the 50 months that the judge gave. And understand, and I'll try to break down the math as best as I can, the judge understands the math of how this all works. With 50 months in the federal system, you only do 85% of that. So you take away about 8 months or so, that's 42 months. And don't forget that Sean Combs has already been sitting in MDC, the jail here in Brooklyn, New York, for 13 months. So you subtract 13 months even from that, you're looking at something like 2 years, maybe 3 years at the end of the day. The judge knew that and still gave this sentence. I think if you're Sean Combs and his defense team, a hard day, but overall a win for them.
Okay, Brian, stand by for us. So let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor and ABC News legal contributor, Bernarda Villalona. And Bernarda, we've also saw today some emotional testimony. We saw numerous children of Sean Diddy Combs speaking before the court, Combs himself saying
he's not the only father going to prison either. There are other fathers in prison. There are people in prison who didn't do half of what Sean Combs did and are in there longer than he is. Where's the justice for that? I'm just curious, for all those who are sitting here crying about Sean Combs here, a man who will never pay your mortgage. Where is the outcry for those who are actually sitting in prison that may not have even been guilty of what they did or did not do half of the crap that he was charged with and the charges that he was found guilty on? And if you get the breakdown of the sentencing, the most he might really do ultimately is 2 to 3 good years when the prosecutor wanted 11. I mean,
that he's a changed man. There was this video that they put together
it's
talking
ridiculous.
about Combs being
Stop
a family
crying
man,
over another
his
grown
impact
man.
on the community. How much of that do you think made a difference here in the judge's decision?
Well, today was definitely judgment day for Sean Diddy Combs. So what the judge told Sean Diddy Combs was like, look, in terms of your life work, of all the good you've done, in terms that you're a great father, it doesn't erase what I heard and what I saw during this 8-week trial. And what he heard and saw during this 8-week trial was one of Sean Diddy Combs taking advantage of Jane and Cassie by being violent to them, taking advantage of their emotions, having them engage in several sex acts, either by drugs or alcohol or by the manipulation. And the judge sent a message that, yes, you have family, yes, you have people that love you, but Jane and Cassie were victims, and victims should be accounted for, and someone should speak for the victims and deter this type of conduct. And that's
exactly, because judges do care about the victims. You just got to have your case in order. That's all I have to say with that. Have your statement of claim, have your evidence, have the facts lined up, have your case in order. That's it. Let people say whatever they're going to call you. Have your evidence put together.
Why the judge didn't go with the 14th month recommendation by the defense, but instead handed down a sentence of 50 months, 4 years and 2 months, to show that this is accountability, this is deterrence, this is protecting the public, and this is what the verdict is going to be today. And when people remember Sean Diddy Combs, they know that he is a convicted felon sentenced to 50 months for his actions throughout a decade on women.
Yep. Child, she couldn't set that any better. Y'all Candace Owens. Okay. Naturally, she's up in my lineup. Oh my God. So let's get to this Chat GPT, right? And I just want to show this summary of information here, just so you guys can see. We have the documents. I just had to get it summarized because I can't do the lengthy court docs and stuff like that. So what I asked, Chat GPT to do is to give me a summary on the government's, the prosecutor's sentencing memorandum in the Sean Combs case. And here's what was found. The key themes and arguments by the government. They wanted a longer sentence warranted by seriousness of conduct. They were seeking at least 11 years, about 135 months for Combs, despite his acquittals on sex trafficking and racketeering charges. Their position emphasizes that while Combs should not be punished for what he was acquitted of, his manner of committing the convicted offenses must still weigh heavily in sentencing. Number two, violence, coercion, and abuse as aggravating factors. The memorandum underscores claims and evidence of physical violence, intimidation, and coercion towards his ex-partners, including threats, controlling behavior, and blackmail. Let's not forget that they tried to tamper with witnesses. That's a problem. When you're trying to shame people for speaking out and reporting issues to the FBI, to the police, if you're going to the SEC, FTC, depending on what it is, and then you try to shame people out of doing that or seeking legal recourse in the court of law through protection orders and lawsuits, that's intimidation. Bottom line, and it is illegal. So you get caught up on that, that is on you, and you got to come. They portray Combs as unrepentant and argue that victims may still live in fear. I don't think he's apologizing because he feels he's changed. He's doing it because he's gotten caught. He just got caught. He will still be doing it. He had been doing this for years, people. I mean, can we all just, speak on the elephant in the room? What really happened to Kim Porter? I mean, if P. Diddy had to answer one question, what truly happened to Kim Porter? Because I don't believe one bit of how she lost her life. I just don't believe that. I never did. Bottom line. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not convinced, nor have I seen any evidence that point towards Kim Porter losing her life the way they claim she did. I don't see sufficient evidence to support that at all. And you're talking about a matter of science and biology? No, I'm not buying it. 3, guideline enhancement sentencing calculations. So there's a sentencing guide that judges use depending on the charges and the severity of such and the number count of each charge that helps them calculate an appropriate, sentencing. So prosecutors propose enhancements to Combs' offense level under the U.S. sentencing guidelines for conduct involving fraud or coercion, which would push the guideline range higher than the raw calculation. The base guideline range cited is 51 to 63 months, which is 4.25 to 5.25 years. But with enhancements for coercion and possible other factors, they argue the range should be significantly larger. So the judges do have discretion. They get to determine if they're going to follow the guide or if they want to even go a little bit beyond that, depending on the severity, or if they want to go somewhat beneath it. And the judge in this case decided, okay, instead of 4.25, I'm going to do 4 years, 2 months. So that's, almost right underneath the minimum sentencing that the guidance gave. But I'm sure that the judge is going to consider the 13, 14 months he's already served and, take away from that. I just hope that they make him do 100% of that time. I mean, seriously. He hasn't gotten out. They didn't give him bail. Why would you turn around and only say, oh, you only need to do 85%, of the sentencing here? It make that make sense. So victim impact and letters. evidence from accusers. Victim impact statements matter. They do matter. That's why it doesn't make sense to, create a mockery of a victim network of some sort when victim impact statements actually matter and mean something in court. They carry weight. So you're confirming it. That's why people who go out and intimidate and harass those who are, seeking legal recourse in court have no idea what they're doing and how that can be flipped around on them. And victims can actually use that in their favor. You would think they would learn, but no. For likes and views, you do the other, you do opposite. It doesn't make sense. When you go to court, you'll be enhancing the actual impact that the victims have had because of the intimidation and the harassment. So the government includes victim letters and narratives detailing long-term harm, fear, retaliation, and emotional impacts from the alleged violence and coercion. They argue that these impacts should be weighed in sentencing to reflect the human harm done, not just the abstract offense. Now, contrast with defense arguments rebuttal to defense requests, the government rebuts the defense's plea for a shorter sentence, such as 14 months of time served, because that's what they were going for initially. Just consider it time served. Like, no. By stressing that such a sentence would not adequately reflect the severity of Combs' conduct. They caution against overemphasizing the acquittals. While Combs was not convicted of the more serious charges, evidence related to those allegations may still inform the court's view of the defendant's character, pattern, and risk. So when you're developing character in court, they want to show the type of person you are, any pattern of behavior. If you're doing something like this for over 10 years, there's a pattern of behavior. How easy do you think it would be for you to stop doing it? That's the issue. When you're talking about rehabilitation, you're thinking about where you are and the realistic chance of you no longer committing the offense. If P. Diddy had been doing this for 20 years, it's not something he can stop in 14 months. Who knows? He might get back out there and start doing it again after 4 years. He might go to prison for 4 years, 2 months, get out, and still go back to doing it or be tempted to do it because he had been doing it for 20 years. How do you overwrite that time and that pattern of behavior? When you can develop a pattern of behavior, even if you don't think that the allegation is that serious, if someone's been doing it for 20 years, it goes to show the severity of it. So I'm going to scroll up. That was the government's sentencing memorandum. So here we're going to look at I want to make sure I have it here. This is the sentencing memorandum from the defense's arguments here. So from P. Diddy's attorneys and what they submitted. So background context, Combs was convicted on 2 counts of transporting individuals across state lines for prostitution, violations of the Mann Act, but was acquitted on racketeering and sex trafficking charges. The defense submitted a 182-page, what did I say, 181? Yeah, 182. It's a 182-page sentencing memorandum, including letters from family, friends, business associates, and character witnesses seeking a significantly reduced sentence. Their main arguments are here below. Remorse, rehabilitation, personal transformation, mitigating personal history / trauma, lack of prior criminal history. Just because he's never had a criminal history does not mean he has not committed a criminal offense. If you are infamous for, doxing people, which is illegal and a felony, just because you haven't been to jail for it does not mean you don't have the propensity to actually commit a criminal offense altogether. It is a crime to dox. So when you see people breaking the law habitually over and over and over again, just because they don't go to prison for it does not mean that they don't have the ability to commit these offenses. And if they've been doing it and getting away with it over an extended period of time, that's easy to show in court with evidence. Look how long this person has been doxing people. 5 years they've been at this. So you can't say that they have some level of remorse in what they're doing when they simply never got caught. So that's where we are with P. Diddy. He's done what he's done for over a decade at least. He just never got caught. And now he's been caught. Family roles and responsibilities. Of course, they're, bidding the court towards, him being a parent and all. They're parents in prison. It sucks to say that, but he's not going to be the only father in prison. He just won't. Didn't he have R. Kelly as a bunkmate? R. Kelly is a father. They should be in prison. You did what you did. You were convicted. You're going to prison. The end. Don't do what you do when you have kids. You should want to, be a better role model and example to your children. But don't sit here and try to use your kids to get out of going to prison when you're found guilty. It's crazy. Time already served. Of course, they wanted him, they wanted the court to grant him time served and just, the 13, 14 months. But no, comparisons and proportionality. So the memo likely argues that the proposed sentence should be consistent with sentences in analogous cases, like similar cases to this, taking into account the actual charges and convictions, not the acquitted ones. So whatever case law that they utilize to say, in these other cases, where the same crimes were committed and you have some of the same or similar factors, like he's never been convicted of anything in the past. He doesn't have a criminal record. He's been sitting in prison this whole time. He's remorseful. He's got kids, 1,000 of them. Here's what the sentencing was in other cases. But a sentencing guide is developed based on, a pattern of behavior with the cases itself. So with case law, you're showing the court, here's what's been done in other cases between the interpretation of law, the evidence, and the sentencing as well. If the government was able to show other cases where 5 to 7 years the sentencing guide was implemented and it outweighed whatever the defense showed, it's a moot point. You're telling the judge, here's what's been done in other cases. Okay, but the prosecutors did the same thing because they have to. That's part of it. You have to show case law. They did the same thing. And I'm sure the list of cases they presented was longer than the cases that the defense presented. Because this is, it's not something you want to see every day in court, but it is a little bit unusual. But at the end of the day, P. Diddy don't have the right to sit here and traffic anybody. Who gave him the authority to traffic any human being for any reason? I don't care. So in sum, the defense is arguing that a sentence of no more than 14 months, including credit for time served, would be just sufficient and not excessive under the circumstances. And then, of course, I'm gonna go straight to the sentencing itself. So here's Sean Combs' sentence. He was sentenced on October 3rd to 50 months, 4 years, 2 months in federal prison, a $500,000 fine, 5 years of supervised release following imprisonment. He will receive credit for roughly 12 to 13 months already served in detention prior to sentencing. So, you take away 50 months minus 13, then he has to do the rest. And let's see. It was asking me if I wanted a breakdown of how much time he's likely to serve after. I mean, it's simple math. 50 minus 13. What is that? 37 months? Yeah. To me, it's not long enough, but whatever. It's standard. It's not something it's based on how laws are written. So the time served will be factored in. So you take away 50 minus 13, and what you're left with is 37 months. And that's what he'll have to do. They're saying that, and the news reporter mentioned, he won't have to do no more than 85% of that, which that would really suck. Because it's not a long period of time here. But I hope they, he got sentenced for a reason. You keep him in there. But either way, that's all I have. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I just wanted to go over that. And just, show you all the documents here. I want to make sure you all see. I have the documents. Now, if you want me to upload the documents in a separate video and put some music on and you guys can just read it, let me know. And I will do that and make it available to the members only. So as you all can see here, this is the government sentencing memorandum. It's 164 pages, y'all. See, can't make this up. It's long. It's a big document. So it's 164 pages. And if you guys want, I don't mind uploading this. I pretty much do this when I do go over cases. Look at that. Oh my God. Oh man. Oh, that's horrible. A gash in her head. Man, that's horrible. She got a black eye here. They put makeup over it. This is crazy. And I have photos and stuff, and then bruises and other. Oh man. So they have some images in the actual sentencing memorandum. I mean, like any other, court document, you have your evidence in here because you want the court to remember this is what this clown did and how serious it was. Some of this is redacted a little bit. I don't know why. Perhaps it's something to do with the Jane Doe. They did have a Jane Doe, but some of it is redacted. I do know his indictment was sealed at one point, and then it was, released. But they do have some redactions in here. I want to say it's pertaining to that second defendant who's named a Jane Doe. I'm sorry, Jane Doe. Jane Doe is typically for males. So you guys can see here all the way at the bottom is 161. Oh, the document here says page 164, 164. So 164 pages, including the header here and the table of contents. So that's what they're adding on. And then, of course, you got the intro. And then you have the indictment itself. This was sealed. So you guys see 24 Crim 542, U.S. District Court, Southern District of New York, U.S. of America versus Sean Combs. And then they have all his so-called, nicknames and stuff because they want to make sure they get them all. Sealed indictment, count 1, racketeering. They had, and it's not that long, so I can upload these if you guys want and put it on the members only channel. So if you're not a member of the Lady Luck Club, consider becoming a member. And you can have these documents to read for your viewing pleasure, because it's something else. And I encourage all of you all to read the information so that you can fully understand, what's truly going on and why the judge still decided to sentence him the way that he did. And he, closely followed the sentencing guidance. So this indictment is something else here. Count 2 was the sex trafficking. Of course, they removed that. Count 3, transportation to engage prostitution. So yeah. And this is the last page here. Why is the 4-person name blocked out? So the U.S. Attorney Damian Williams signed at the bottom. So like I said, if you guys want to get a copy of this, I don't mind uploading it and putting it on the members only, because that's exactly where it's going to go. In the meantime, thank you all so much for tuning in. Hit the like button. Leave your comments and thoughts below. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. I think, the biggest pushback I've been hearing is because he's black and he's done so much with music. I don't care. And judges are not supposed to care about that, because if that be the case, people who do music, I guess, are expected to just get away with breaking the law. No, it's not how it should work. If we don't want even the president to get away with breaking the law, why are we expecting that with someone that does music. I don't want it either way. I want the law to be fair and to be enforced and upheld, regardless of who it is. But there are times where it's not. And when it's not, advocate for it to be. That's all we can do. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section and hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you all so much for listening and tuning in. And until the next one, Lady Luck Club out. Deuces.